Good morning. Wow, what a great group here. I'm so impressed. It's Sunday morning and we're a full house already. So thank you and welcome to Bloomberg. We're excited to have you here today to join us for our 5th annual Data for Good Exchange. I'm Karen Klein. I'm a founding partner of Bloomberg Beta. We're a seed stage venture capital firm focused on the future of work and backed by Bloomberg LP. We focus on making work better, and a large part of that is machine intelligence and data science. So I'm especially delighted to be here with you and hear some of the things that are going on. I've been fortunate in my career to have worked with a bunch of leading startups, and one of the reasons why I came to Bloomberg was its spirit of transparency and the powerful data sets that we have here. I love that this event brings those both together with the intention of doing good. I mean, we're essentially applying data science and using that to have positive social impact, which is hugely important. So please share what you're seeing. As you can see, we have our hashtag for Twitter, D4GX, and then look for us at Tech at Bloomberg. And now I have the great pleasure of introducing someone I enjoy working with tremendously. He and his team create the vision and strategy for Bloomberg's global technology platform. And one of the reasons we're here today is because of his interest in data science and support for this program. He also pioneered Bloomberg's efforts to advance research in data science. And he's done this through the Data Science Research Grant Program and this year's new Data Science Fellowship Program for PhDs. And he also leads Bloomberg's efforts around open source. So without further ado, please extend a warm welcome to our CTO, Shawn Edwards.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Bloomberg's global headquarters in the 5th Data for Good Exchange. We're thrilled by the increasing number of paper submissions and proposals, as well as attendees. This year, more than 1,000 people registered for the conference in a matter of 3 days. This year's conference is lining up to be the best so far. Now, when my colleague Gideon Mann, who's the head of data science at Bloomberg, pitched the idea for this conference to me 5 years ago, he said he wanted to do something different from a typical data science conference. He wanted to create a meeting place to connect data scientists from academia and industry who have the tools and knowledge to analyze data with professionals and nonprofits and government agencies who understand the problems impacting society. We wanted to facilitate meaningful conversations about how data can be used to drive positive change and to focus attention on challenges that might not be addressed by market forces. We both felt that Bloomberg was the right place to host this conference. For one, the company's core value proposition is to help users make fact-based decisions by giving them the tools to analyze and act on data. Second, Mike Bloomberg has long championed the effective cooperation between the public and private sectors to improve civic and social outcomes. And third, Mike has committed to making the world a better place through his philanthropic efforts. It's great to work for a company where most of the profit goes to doing good. This year's conference theme, Our Data for Good, looks at how data scientists, corporations, policymakers, and researchers collaborate on data science projects that result in positive social outcomes while ensuring that data science being practiced focuses on everyone having a stake, making it solid, fair, and equitable. You may recall that we launched an initiative at last year's D4GX together with Bright Hive and Data for Democracy to steer the grassroots development of a data science code of ethics. That led us to hold our very first Data for Good Exchange event in San Francisco this past February that was focused on doing just that. The keynote was given by the first Chief Data Officer of the United States, DJ Patel. We'll hear an update on that effort a little later this morning. I know that our amazing workshop facilitators from GovX, DataKind, New York City Media Lab, Columbia Journalism School, the US Census Bureau's Census Open Innovation Labs, the New York Hall of Science, and Columbia University's Data Science Institute have worked hard on some very interesting projects aimed at creating social change through data. I'm really excited to see how we all can contribute to these efforts. I want to especially welcome and thank Columbia University's Data Institute's director, Jeanette Wing, for letting us leverage some of their resources and staff in putting this year's event together. We're going to have some terrific panels, including ones on community recovery and resilience, equity in communities of color, sustainable finance, and human genetics. And excellent papers focused on research, public services, new data, and philanthropy. Plus, in our atrium downstairs, as you saw when you came in, you'll see many interesting case studies and posters which demonstrate the impact that the Data for Good movement is having around the globe. In my opinion, one of the highlights of the conference each year is the D4GX Immersion Day program. Through it, we embed data science doctoral students from universities in a non-for-profit or city government for a short period of time to see how they can use their statistical and data science skills to help their partners develop a strategy or explore ways to utilize their existing data more effectively. This year, our nonprofit partners are Love City Strong USVI, which is doing incredible recovery work in U.S. Virgin Islands, spurred on by our founders, Tom Secunda and Mike Bloomberg, and Billion Oyster Project, which is researching ways to restore sustainable oyster population in and around New York Harbor. And our municipal partner, the City of Milan, has been looking for a way to better measure government accountability to its citizens. You'll hear more about these projects during a panel later this afternoon. Now, there's a lot of people at Bloomberg who make this conference possible, as you can tell. But there's one person I feel compelled to recognize, Victoria Cirillo. My colleague Vicky has organized this year's conference. She's incredibly smart, passionate, and always calm. I don't know how she does it. I want to thank her for all her hard work. I'm lucky to work with such a colleague as Vicky. Now I would like to introduce this morning's keynote speaker, Rose Gill Hearn of Bloomberg Associates. Bloomberg Associates is a philanthropic consulting service established by Mike Bloomberg following his mayoralty in New York City. They work with mayors in the US and around the globe to determine how best to leverage a city's data to positively impact the quality of life of its citizens. Rose served as commissioner of New York City's Department of Investigation in the Bloomberg administration from 2002 to 2013, making her the longest-serving commissioner of the agency's 140-year history. Her leadership led to significant increases in DOI's productivity, including assets recovered for the City of New York and a comprehensive corruption prevention program. In 2013, she helped create the Center for the Advancement of Public Integrity at Columbia Law School, which focuses on accountability in government and municipal jurisdictions throughout the world, and she chairs its advisory board. Prior to her appointment at DOI, Rose was a federal prosecutor for 10 years in the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. She has taught as an adjunct professor of law at Fordham University School of Law and worked as a litigator in the private sector. Rose currently serves as the chair of New York City's Campaign Finance Board, a national model for nonpartisan regulation of public financing of campaigns and for voters' assistance. Her experience dealing with corruption vulnerabilities continues to inform her work. Through the D4GX Immersion Day program, she and her team have been able to help several cities around the globe harness and publish data that has been empowering for the public and led to the creation of tools useful to city managers for promoting integrity and better service delivery. Now I'd like to invite Rose to the stage to share several examples with you in which city data, everyone's data really, is being used to help make city governments and their agencies more efficient and responsive to citizens and businesses. Please give a warm welcome to Rose.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Shawn, for that kind introduction and for being an architect of this visionary program. It is a pleasure to be here with all of you. And as Shawn mentioned, I had the privilege of serving for 12 years in the Bloomberg administration when Mike Bloomberg was mayor here in New York. And I can tell you that we considered it vital to use data to help operate the city and form the basis for policy and tangible service delivery. Following that, for the past 5 years, I've worked as a principal at Bloomberg Associates on transparency-related projects with city governments around the world. Bloomberg Associates is a nonprofit consulting firm that is part of Bloomberg Philanthropies, and its mission, as set forth by Mike, is for us to help our city clients achieve their goals, applying many of the lessons that we learned during the Bloomberg administration, and often with the use of data. To that end, I have been able to connect 4 terrific Bloomberg Associate client cities to the benefits of this D4GX program: Rio, Bogota, Paris, and later today, our City of Milan partners launch their D4GX project. Those municipal collaborations with D4GX have resulted in the design and deployment of data tools that have benefited thousands of citizens in a lasting way. So it feels synergistic for me to be at Bloomberg LP on this 5th anniversary of the Data for Good Exchange program. I am certainly a fan. I first became aware of the Data for Good Exchange program through a wonderful Bloomberg colleague who is probably familiar to many of you in this room, Nanette Smith, the Global Head of Philanthropy and Engagement at Bloomberg LP and all-around dynamo. Nanette approached me and thought it would be great to include some of the Bloomberg associate client cities in the D4GX programs. All cities face data challenges, and so we embraced the assistance provided by this unique initiative. That was 4 years ago, and it was the beginning of a prolific relationship. I hope to be back again next year, so thank you to Nanette Smith. When the opportunity to engage with D4GX presented itself, Bloomberg Associates was working with Rio de Janeiro. I immediately thought of a project I was working on in Rio, where obtaining important business data had been labor-intensive for the city officials and sparsely available. I will return to the Rio project in detail in a minute, but from that spark of an idea, we were able to help Rio solve a significant data challenge through the Data for Good immersion program. Cities, like so many other organizations, perform functions that generate a lot of data, but that data can be static, unmined, and often overlooked. We have seen cities and other entities struggle with how to harness and use that valuable resource, data, to inform policy, deploy resources, and create more transparency in the delivery of services. We have been able to use the tools and data experts provided by the D4GX program to build data dashboards, forecast models, and visualizations that give city managers the ability to respond to and engage with citizens in a strategic and timely way. This year's program focuses on the use of data to forge positive social outcomes, as Shawn said. This is core to our mission at Bloomberg Associates and within the mission of the larger Bloomberg universe. We believe deeply in the power of data to drive good decision-making based on facts rather than on bias or politics. Today, we have gathered individuals from academia, the private sector, government, and civil society to participate in a dialogue about how data science methods can help solve social changes and contribute to a more equitable society. We look forward to your varied perspectives on the innovative and influential ways that you are using data. To take a step back, I thought it might be helpful to share one example about how the Bloomberg administration used data to help New Yorkers. In order to proactively identify the safety concerns stemming from properties with a high risk of fire deaths, the city combined data sets from the fire and buildings departments, including illegal conversions, foreclosures, and neighborhood demographics. The city created a risk assessment model fusing certain factors that correlated with fire hazards, which generated a weekly list of potentially vulnerable properties for enforcement agencies to inspect. As a result, the inspection teams found and eliminated hazardous living conditions in a greater number of these targeted inspections. Thus, the improvement in both resource allocation and public safety from this data-driven project was dramatic. Similarly, this emphasis on data was a crucial part of my work in the Bloomberg administration, where I served, as Shawn said, as commissioner of the New York City Department of Investigation, known as DOI, which is New York City's anti-corruption watchdog agency. DOI has oversight of all 45 New York City mayoral agencies, over 300,000 employees, all city contracts, and city-funded programs. That broad mandate required us to have an understanding of the vast government operations and to determine where there was a lack of transparency or inefficient bureaucratic procedures. With that complex a mandate, we used data to help us strategically identify corruption vulnerabilities. 3 brief examples. To address pension fraud, we established a data matching program that compared pension system data with decedent data from the health department. And to address public housing fraud, we established a data matching program that compared housing roll data to income, Social Security, and other financial data. These data matching programs enabled identification of potential fraud or errors at the earliest stages and prevented millions in loss of government funds. At DOI, we received thousands of contacts from members of the public each year and had open at any given time hundreds of cases. To keep a handle on that many matters, we marshaled our own agency's data in order to manage our sprawling docket by creating a CompStat program. We identified our key performance indicators, such as number of citizen complaints received, number of cases opened, outcomes, etc., and we used that data to drive weekly presentations with DOI's managers on the status of those matters. Harnessing the data through that CompStat program immediately enhanced our own productivity. For example, the ability to monitor the length of time being spent on cases. My job at DOI indeed informs the work that I do at Bloomberg Associates as principal of the Municipal Integrity and Transparency practice. Indeed, in establishing Bloomberg Associates following his mayoralty, Mike Bloomberg brought together a number of commissioners and other officials from his administration so that we could share that steep municipal experience, including what worked and what didn't work, with other cities. BA uses that expertise to support city governments in the US and around the world on a pro bono basis to tackle a wide array of municipal challenges. In addition to my field of practice, the other disciplines are varied and fill out the support that we are able to provide to cities, urban planning, social services, et cetera. The other disciplines are here, and they all do a tremendous job helping our city clients. Over the past 4.5 years, my practice at BA has worked with almost a dozen cities. We make recommendations and partner on projects that seek to enhance municipal service delivery and transparency, and by extension, to cut red tape. In addition to making city governments more efficient, such efforts also serve to minimize the corruption vulnerabilities that bureaucracy and opaque procedures can generate. Our work with the very talented teams in our city clients has resulted in tangible changes to the municipal transparency landscape. For example, we helped Mexico City put its contracts online, and we helped Bogota reduce corruption and inefficiency in its city hospital emergency rooms. Our engagements typically involve analysis of legal issues, city regulations, and then streamlining government processes as a means to provide better customer service for everyone. Many of them have also involved taking city data, in some cases stale or inconsistent data, and making it more up-to-date, accessible, and integrated into the city's management and policy decisions. As I referenced a short while ago, the Data for Good Exchange program has provided a great opportunity for 4 of our city clients to confront their data challenges with the expert guidance of data scientists identified and assigned through the program. Our first collaboration with D4GX was with the city of Rio de Janeiro, which was struggling to use the data created by its new automated business licensing portal. When we started working in Rio, we were soon introduced by Mayor Paez to problems with the city's business licensing process. The process was lengthy and complex and paper-based. Applicants had to submit a variety of forms not available online and visit multiple offices in person, facing turnaround times that could be months in length. To bypass these difficulties, many entrepreneurs hired quote-unquote intermediaries known for their ability to navigate the system. Those intermediaries would, of course, charge businesses extra money. This opaque and inefficient process held up business formation, drained public and private resources, and had various other consequences, including corruption vulnerabilities. BA started working on this project with Rio's officials with the goal of streamlining the business licensing process. We went over the existing laws and procedures for each type of business license and used New York's own small business wizard as a model to guide applicants in the process. Through an in-depth collaboration, we created Rio Más Fácil, a new online portal that replaced the paper-based process, eliminated unnecessary steps and face-to-face interactions, and drastically reduced turnaround times. Issuance of business licenses went from approximately 40,000 per year to now 82,000 per year under the new system. Between October 2015 and August 2018, 170,000 licenses have been approved automatically through the system and garnering millions in tax revenue for the city. The Rio Más Fácil online business licensing portal immediately became used on a widespread basis, and it received praise from the public and the Business Chamber of Commerce. However, we soon realized that despite the system being the repository of valuable data about new business activity in the city, for example, what types of businesses were being opened, in what geographic areas of the city, this data was not easily accessible without labor-intensive interaction on the part of overworked city employees. This is where D4GX came into play. We were assigned a data scientist to work with us, and the City of Rio was able to develop a robust data dashboard that populates the business licensing data into geocoded maps and graphics. Following the unveiling of the prototype of the Rio dashboard at D4GX in 2014, Mayor Paez asked for it to be made public-facing. Thus, the dashboard then launched publicly and features in real time via automatic updates a wealth of information about business licenses that have been approved or denied throughout the city. The dashboard has allowed city managers to better understand economic activities in the city and plans for future growth. It also allows businesses and entrepreneurs to see what types of businesses are developing in different neighborhoods, where there is saturation or room for competition. The Data for Good Exchange program also worked with Paris, another of our city clients, on an important data management tool, a KPI, Key Performance Indicator, dashboard. Paris's Mayor Anne Hidalgo set targets for her administration on a range of issues vital to citizens, from recycling to new space for startups. When city officials wanted to get more information about how the city was delivering on all of its targets, it required a review of a voluminous appendix attached to the city's annual budget. Via the D4GX program, our City of Paris working group decided to make that KPI data much more accessible, useful, and transparent. Mayor Hidalgo is committed to transparency, so the city made it a priority to bring this data to life and develop a prototype data tool to be able to track progress on the city's key performance indicators at the touch of a finger. We started by having the Paris officials select 10 KPIs for the prototype of the dashboard. We selected the KPIs using several criteria. 1, KPIs of high importance to the city and the mayor, and 2, KPIs that had data that was well managed and able to be automated. To give you a sense of the KPIs we included in the dashboard, I will illustrate 2 examples. The mayor set a goal of creating 100,000 new square meters of space for startups to be opened during the 6 years of her tenure. So that was selected as one of the 10 KPIs for the dashboard prototype. When we looked at the data, it showed that the city had added more than 77,000 new square meters for startups through mid-2017. So that KPI was displayed in green because it was a target being timely met. The dashboard also allows users to conduct a deeper dive on the data. So by clicking on each indicator, you can find comparisons to previous year's metrics, a map to better understand where the new spaces are located in the city, etc. The city set a target for itself that 85% of calls to the city's call center be answered within 1 minute, so that became another KPI selected for the dashboard. The data showed that 87.5% of the calls answered met that target, so on the dashboard, the KPI is displayed in green with a check mark again. So similarly, users can perform a deeper dive by clicking down on that indicator to charts regarding specific call topics, numbers of calls, and much more. And not every KPI that they selected was one being met. You can see that there were several selected where the targets were not being met, and that's the benefit to doing this kind of a dashboard. Managers can assess what's going on and make adjustments as it relates to meeting those goals of the city. So Paris plans on continuing to expand the dashboard with additional KPIs, and they are working continuously on automating the data behind each of those KPIs. As another byproduct of this project, the dashboard resulted in the creation of a new central IT connector linking city agency data that can now be replicated for other multi-agency data projects. Doesn't sound like a big deal, but that's huge in city government. This D4GX project has also spurred the city to reevaluate the manner by which it publishes their KPIs as an attachment to the city's annual budget report and to assess and update those KPIs. We also work with the city of Bogota to develop a citizen input dashboard that would make sense of the data from the tens of thousands of calls, emails, and letters that the city receives from citizens each year. This dashboard consists of, for example, contacts from citizens regarding everything from neutral requests for government forms to complaints about a damaged roadway or long lines in a public office, to positive comments about a public worker who was helpful. Before the Citizen Input Dashboard was created, tens of thousands of those calls, emails, and inputs from citizens came into a variety of city systems, and they sat unused. The Citizen Input Dashboard displays citizen inputs, allowing city managers and officials to better understand and address the issues presented to them. It is accessible to the public and updates itself monthly. Its functionality permits the user to filter the data by neighborhood or to see types of issues in a particular geographic area. The user can also filter by sector, for example, health, which can show, among other things, the volume of citizen inputs regarding the hospitals in various locations. Another important function shows the timeliness of the city's response to those citizen communications. Mayor Peñalosa wanted the dashboard to take that wealth of information coming into the city from citizens and harness it into one place where it can be used in close to real time by citizens and city managers. This initiative, which was possible thanks to the support of D4GX, gives the city an action-oriented, ear-to-the-ground with respect to the needs of its citizens. In fact, this dashboard is a cutting-edge application of a national open data policy, making Bogota a transparency leader in Colombia. This Bogota Citizen Input Dashboard also was part of the inspiration for Milan's project this year. We are proud once again to be part of the D4GX program, this time in partnership with the administration of Mayor Giuseppe Sala. This year, we worked on the development of a CRM dashboard prototype with the city's Director of CRM and Customer Intelligence, Dario Manuli, to harness the data from the city's two citizen communication channels, the city's telephone line and website. Similar to the Bogota dashboard, the main objective for Milan is to manage the inputs from citizens pouring in from different sources into one place to better understand the needs and concerns of citizens and to respond to them in a targeted and more rapid manner. Last year alone, Milan's telephone line and website received over 1.7 million inquiries combined. The CRM dashboard, which you will get to see later during a panel this afternoon, organizes all of this information into different types of visualizations, graphs, and filters. As an added feature, the D4GX data scientists also work with Milan's technical team to develop a forecasting tool that predicts the ebbs and flows of that citizen call or online volume. That will, in turn, enable the city managers to more efficiently staff the personnel necessary to respond to inquiries during the calendar year. So I want to thank Xavier Gonzalez and Luca Venturi, our data scientists who were assigned to us as part of the Milan project this year. D4GX has been instrumental in underscoring the linkages between our global citizenship and our data. This year's D4GX theme, Our Data for Good, encourages all of us to actively collaborate on data projects that lead to positive change. That very process forms the basis of the work done by Bloomberg Philanthropies, Mike's Foundation. The different city dashboards I mentioned before are examples of what can be achieved and what opportunities can arise when public and private actors partner to create sustainable and positive impact using data. By being here today to take part in the workshops and panels throughout the day, let us keep in mind that we have embraced the task of unraveling today's complex challenges, and now is the time to start. So thank you to everyone involved in this very intricate event, and I too want to especially thank Vicky Cerullo. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. And thank you all for coming. It's hard to believe it's 9:45 in the morning and the room is full, so thank you. For those who don't know me, I'm Gideon Mann. I'm head of data science here at Bloomberg. I work in the office of CTO with Shawn. I'm also one of the people who was part at the very beginning 5 years ago of Data for Good Exchange. It's hard to believe how far this event has come in 5 years, and it really feels like you all are my family. I guess in part it's because my family is here. But also, really, there's so many familiar faces and people, and it really feels like that this group has really built something special and lasting. So one of the things I want to kind of tie back to is many of you were here last year when we kicked off work in the Data Science Code of Ethics. Ethics in data science has been a big issue this past year. And for those of you who weren't here, the idea was for us to turn to the data science community and kind of bring them back thinking about these ideas of ethics and responsibility. Our theme last year was, with great data comes great responsibility. I couldn't figure out a way to come up with like a superhero tie-in this year, but that was last year. So this year we have an update on the Data Science Code of Ethics work, and I want to invite our partners at Bright Hive and Data for Democracy in a moment. They have done an amazing job at mobilizing a lot of people to start thinking and talking about data science ethics. And so for this update, I'd like to invite Mo Johnson, the Code of Ethics Community Manager at Data for Democracy, to the stage. But first, before she comes up, we had an amazing collection of people over this last February to join us for a Data Science for Social Good, our Data for Good Exchange San Francisco event. And we have a little video we'd like to show, so please.
I think we're now seeing in data science the emergence of a profession that is across all of these different industries and that can therefore have some code of conduct for its members. So it's a good time to be doing this.
The number one thing I think data scientists have right now is the ability to change dramatic lives. With great power comes great responsibility. And so how does a person know about the potential impacts of choices that might actually take place with the things they're working on?
One of the biggest challenges we dealt with was getting people to acknowledge that the responsibility for conducting ethical data science doesn't just begin and end at the process of solving the problem itself, but rather the idea of choosing the questions in the first place. That's also not morally neutral, and people have an obligation to consider the implications of the work they're doing and whether they can maximize benefit and minimize harm to society.
So there's a myth that data is neutral and that algorithms are neutral, and it's very important that we catch up with the reality that in fact we need to craft these things responsibly with all stakeholders in mind.
This idea of responsibility really comes back to who's impacted by the choices that I'm making. And so what are the consequences for the individuals whose data I'm sharing? Really imagine the human being who's associated with each data point or each row in your spreadsheet, so that it's not just an edge case, it's not just an outlier, but it's a person who's attached to that. And I think really making that the focus of your practice will really help you think about the problem in a new way.
We try to reach out to everyone, like the citizen data scientists, from Texas, the multi-PhD tenure-track professor from, Ithaca, and we are trying to work with them to make sure we understand what problem they have and what tools or methodology we can bring to them to make sure that they deal with data in an ethical and responsible way.
Everybody comes here with a different set of experiences and perspectives, and this type of ground-up way of generating a code of ethics allows us to incorporate and voice those things. So this is not just being determined by somebody who has worked in a specific field or two specific fields and says these are the best practices. It's somebody saying, oh wow, I've done that, I've seen this, and this is what we can make of it.
This initiative, more so than others, maybe has the potential to effectively represent the breadth of the field.
I'm interested in making sure that the next generation of data scientists are aware that their actions are going to affect the lives of a lot of people, and it's important to have this in a structured and standardized way, like a code of ethics.
We can build something that hopefully will be useful, reusable, and have some positive impact on our society.
Hello everybody, I'm in that video, and I'm Mo. I'm also a community member at Data for Democracy, and I've been a community member before I became the community lead for the Data for Democracy ethics project. I've spent most of my career working with social science data as a research and field worker. So I'm a data worker, and I care about the impact of my work on the data around me. I think this is a statement that many of us here can also resonate with. So I invite you all to imagine a scenario. You've been asked to create an algorithm to identify and provide services to high school students who are at risk for not graduating. You have demographic data, geographic data, whether or not their parents have internet access or what their parents' credit scores are. You have the ability to help to solve a pressing problem. You pause and ask yourself, what could happen? What else could my data or the algorithm I created be used for? What are the unintended consequences of my work? Luckily, I, as a data worker, I am also part of a community at Data for Democracy who is talking about ethics on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, really, in our Slack channel. This is a community that is industry agnostic, made of peers, experts, and brand new coders. We are all trying to figure out ways to apply ethics in our work. This community that I'm a part of has a framework we created here at Data for Good last September, and then we really came together and worked on it in February of 2018. This framework of principles is built upon all of our work. This framework is made up of 5 main points, which should be, they are fairness. Oh, well, there's other stuff. There's fairness. There's fairness, openness, reliability, trust, and social benefit. These spell forts, and I hope they support you and your data work. From this framework, we are welcoming and collaborating with organizations such as the Center for Government Excellence. They, in collaboration with many others, who have created a toolkit for government workers. Come and visit their workshop today. I'll be there, and we are sharing their work on our Data for Democracy Slack channel today as well. We are continuing to build our community and invite all data practitioners to become engaged with our community and our work. Please join me with the support of Omidyar, Bloomberg, New Knowledge, and too many other individuals to name in continuing to build a more engaged and ethical data society. So please, no matter your affiliation, your industry, or how many years you've been working with data, I invite you to join the community, sign the pledge, and also enjoy the richness and diversity of workshops today. Thank you.
Thanks, Mo. And now we have some news to break here at the Data for Good Exchange. Please welcome up Sarah Spagnolo from Foursquare to make an exciting announcement.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah Spagnolo. I'm the Senior Director of Communications at Foursquare, also our editor-at-large. I've been there for 3 years. Before that, I was an editor at Travel and Leisure magazine for almost a decade. When I think about my career and what ties it together, it's a connection to place. So the idea that experiencing places, that visiting them, that knowing about them, that collecting data about them makes us better human beings, makes us more aware of the world, brings good into the world as well. That's why I'm thrilled to be here to introduce the Foursquare for Good initiative. It's an open call for submissions for developers, data scientists, and the like to use our data in a new and inventive way. I'm going to tell you more about that in just a minute. Does anybody know these two brands? Nobody, wow. So Blind Square is an app that provides auditory clues to the visually impaired so they can explore the world independently and with ease. WheelMap is a global free map of wheelchair-accessible locations around the world. They're also both powered by Foursquare location technology and data. These brands, does anybody know them? Hopefully you do. When you input your location to come here in an Uber, you were using Foursquare technology and data. When you geotagged a tweet that you were here, also Foursquare tech. Tinder, soon to be announced in the US, but happening around the world. You can search for a match based on your favorite places, so you can find people who also love your favorite smoothie shop, gym, or dive bar. All of these are powered by Foursquare tech and technology. We call Foursquare the location layer of the internet, and perhaps you can see why. In fact, 150,000 apps and services have registered to use our location tech in the past 10 years since Foursquare was founded. You may remember that Foursquare is a consumer app, right? You checked in, you shared your location, and in fact, we did launch the idea of location sharing with a community of friends. Since then, we've grown into a much larger company with business solutions and services, as well as developer tools. Those developer tools are what are going to be made available to a lucky winner of this initiative that I'm launching today. We're heads down. We're a group of about 300 people, heads down building the solutions for retail, for dining, for media, and ad tech. But we know that there are so many incredible things that you could be doing with our tools and our data. We just don't have the resources to do it, which is why we've started this initiative. We have a couple of ideas of how you could use it. I'll go through a few of them. Consider a mapping app that instead of allowing people to circumvent downtown cores, actually sends people right directly through them. Call it revitalization mode. You allow people to visit the areas in the cities that need it most. Consider an app or a technology or a service that understands people at risk and can send needed help and support right when it counts. Perhaps it's a weight loss app that recognizes that people have been visiting fast food joints more often than they should, or an app, you like that one over there, I do too, or an app for AA that recognizes that you're really close to an old favorite bar and can send a notification or some other type of support immediately. Consider a hiking app that understands that there's a volunteer opportunity in an area to clean up a beautiful park and sends you a notification or some other alert because they know that you love that hike as well and have visited it recently, and then can help support and clean up these areas for the public and explorers to come. So that's why we're launching Foursquare for Good. We think there are hundreds, millions of ideas perhaps out there who might be wanting to use our API or SDK. The API is built on our collection of 105 million places around the globe that have been created thanks to 13 billion check-ins. So not only do we understand the location information about these POIs, but also the tastes, the specificity of the thing that makes that location so significant, whether it's a margarita or a special type of parfait yogurt, etc. The Pilgrim SDK is something very special. We launched it last year, and it allows us to understand how phones move in and out of those 105 million places using background location technology. It's very exciting, and in fact, we just recently announced that AccuWeather has partnered with us for use of our Pilgrim SDK. That will allow AccuWeather to have location-based notifications, as well as really unique audience segmentation. We have an incredible panel of jurors who will be looking at these submissions. Starting today through October 16th, we'll be accepting submissions. Includes Dennis Crowley, the Foursquare co-founder and executive chairman, as well as Matt Kamen, our SVP of engineering. We have two incredible jurors from Bloomberg, Gideon Mann, as you just saw. Also, Tess O'Brien. We have Caitlin Augustin from DataKind, who's here, although I haven't met her yet. I look forward to meeting you. And Albert Wanger, managing partner of Union Square Ventures. Here's where you nominate. I hope to see all of your wild and not so wild ideas from disruptors, from academics, nonprofits, et cetera. Thanks so much for having us and for having Foursquare.